homosexuals out of the gay lifestyle. And then now it is morphed through the years to any sexual sin, helping people involved in any sexual sin. And by far now they're helping Christian men deal with pornography because of the internet and everything. So that's what they do mainly now. But that's New Creation Ministries. Anyone dealing with a sexual issue of some kind, that would be a good place to refer them. New Life for Girls. New Life for Girls is mainly for drug addicts and prostitutes, women, and it's actually part of Dave Wilkerson, Joni's relatives, started so many ministries, and one of them is New Life for Girls, and they're in town, down on Broadway, and they go 6 months, they go to this center. If they've worked out for 6 months, then they'll go back to Philadelphia or back to Pennsylvania for another 6 months or a year, and get cleaned up, get rehab. So it's a really good ministry. I'm just picking some of them I thought would be useful. Oasis Adult Daycare. I think that's for Alzheimer's patients. It's a daycare. So if my wife was really bad with Alzheimer's and stuff, I could take her there in the morning, and she'd be with other people doing things and stuff, so I could do what I need to do and then go pick her up again and bring her back. That's out by Fresno Pacific University. Poverello House, food, housing. They also have John Erickson, who's one of the elders here or something. He is the doctor in charge of their clinic there. And he also heads up urgent care in Peachwood. So they have a medical and dental clinic there too. Pregnancy Care Center is to help women keep their babies instead of aborting them. Prison Fellowship is in town, and that's helping prisoners. We have a huge number of prisoners. You drive from here to San Luis, you'll drive by 5 prisons on the way. Mm-hmm. At least close enough at night that you can see their lights. Corcoran, Juvenile Hall, Corcoran, Avenel. There's a boys' place in prison in Paso Robles, and then the ones in San Luis, the 2 of them in San Luis next to Men's Colony. Yeah, we got tons of prisons, and need people to go in and visit them and help them. Rescue the Children. Talked about that. Women and children, part of the rescue mission. Salvation Army Adult Rehab. A man could go to, women too, I think, at Teen Challenge, and they're going to start to take women anyway. But it's Teen Challenge, Salvation Army, Rescue Mission Academy. We have huge resources for helping people get on their feet again. Salvation Army Family Service Center, that's people needing clothing, food, everyday things, kind of like a social worker. There's also a Clovis one. Clovis Salvation Army over on Barstow. Seventh-day Adventist Service Center, which is a neat one too. That's out here in Clovis. Survivors of Suicide. If someone's had a loved one that committed suicide, there's a group in our town. The man and wife that run it came home one day and found their son hanging from the tree in the backyard. And so they head up Survivors of Suicide, and a neat Christian ministry. Total Life Change, that's a new ministry. Todd Harris is the regional Celebrate Recovery director, the regional director. So if this is California, Todd Harris has this section, and there's, let's say, thirds of California. So he starts Celebrate Recovery. Then he realized some people need more than Celebrate Recovery. They need some deeper help. They need total life change. They need referrals. They need help. So he started a ministry. They're in our office complex. It's called Total Life Change. And Todd Harris is the director of that. And that's to people that need, that isn't cutting it for them. They need some other help. Dream Center, I put that on here. So those are some Christian ministries that might be helpful. I went in and we'll change things around a little bit here. I went in and took this off the wall of our Loving Clearinghouse. These are the main referral places that we send people in need. And so the hot sheet. So I'll go through some of these with you. But this would be something that might be helpful. Gee, this slide passes it a little faster. That's our ESA office number on the top, Loving's number, our fax line, and our address. Okay? I don't know why Drum Rights is up there. They're our office supply company, but I guess that's right. She also does our office supply. Okay, APS, Adult Protective Services. Any problem that an adult is having for some reason, you can call that number. Catholic Charities, food, clothing, etc. Clinica Sierra Vista, medical and dental for low-income people. Centro La Familia, family support for Hispanics, Spanish-speaking people. EOC, sanctuary for homeless youth, runaways. We were going to start a ministry to runaways in Fresno once, and then we realized they run away from Fresno. Not to Fresno. So back then we didn't need them because crazy? I'm going to Santa Barbara. I'm going to Pismo. I'm going to the ocean. I'm not going to run to Fresno. But now I guess they have a lot of running away. So that's a runaway shelter downtown next to the Presbyterian Church. Evangel Home. Fire report verification. We added that one because me and another guy once delivered a couch to this lady whose house had a house fire and burned her couch. And so we carried the couch into her house and sat on the couch, and she was getting us some water in the other room. And I yelled, I said, "Where was your fire?" "No, it was right here in that room." "Really?" Looking around, there are cracks on the walls, there's cobwebs. I told my friend, I said, "This room didn't burn, but this couch is so heavy, don't say anything. Let's just leave it." So we let her have the couch, and then we did the fire verification thing. So now we find out before we go. Rescue mission. And I wrote, do you have MAP on there? Did I write MAP on there? Yeah. That's the multi-assistance program. You could call this number at any time. That is the portal for the homeless to go in and get help. Rescue Mission Thrift Store, they have one on Sierra and Blackstone. Food stamps, Highway City Thrift Store, there's the information there. Holy Cross Center for Women. Day Shelter, but they also have Naomi houses on here, yeah. Hope Now for Youth. They help you move. If you want a bunch of gang members to come help you move, Hope Now for Youth is the former gang members.
Actually, it works really
well. It works
They're very, very
They're great guys.
They are.
They're great guys. I have a friend who spent 33 years in prison. He was one of my Youth for Christ guys when I worked for YFC. 33 years in prison. He got out now. He's a computer expert. So I was telling the other ministry leaders, I said, my friend Tim here is an expert in computers. He does work with ministries if you ever need help. So one of my colleagues called me soon after that and said, well, your friend Tim's coming over to our office next week to help us. You think there's any problem, or you think he'll steal anything? I said, he's not a thief, he's a murderer. Just don't make him mad. So it's working out good. He hasn't stolen anything or killed anyone, so that's good. He's a wonderful Christian now, this guy. Okay, in-home support services. There are people that, depending on their income, can get someone to come in and help them. That person can earn $1,100 or so a month. If you're low income, you could hire one of your relatives to come in and be your in-home worker for $1,100 or whatever it is. Johnny and Friends, that's how I get them. Legal services, that's legal help and advice, low cost. And there's probably a requirement that you be low income. Marjorie Mason Center, abused women. There's one in Fresno, there's one in Clovis. It's interesting. Marjorie Mason was a Christian woman. She was killed, right over by your church where you used to have your church. And I had, this is just a little side story. When I worked at Youth for Christ, I worked at Edison for 10 years. And I brought in a guy named Bob Tillman. He was a black belt in karate. He was a bailiff for he was the deputy sheriff, and he worked in the courthouse. And I brought him in, he gave his testimony. And then I said, you know, I had this girls' football team called Powder Puff, and I don't know the first thing about sports. You used to play football probably, huh? He was a big guy, and he goes, yeah. I said, will you be our coach? He said, yes. So, the day of our first practice, we were going to meet at 3:30 at Edison. My wife calls me at like 1:30 and said, isn't Bob Tillman the name of the guy that was going to be your Powder Puff coach? Yeah. Well, he just killed his girlfriend, killed himself over by Edison. I said, it must not be the right one. So I knew the sheriff, so I called the sheriff up, McKinney, and he said, yeah, the same woman. And his girlfriend had broken up with him, and he wasn't going to let her go. So he tortured her for 2 or 3 days, and then when the sheriff started coming in to get him, the police, he killed her and he killed himself. That's Marjorie Mason. She was a Christian woman, good Christian woman, killed by this Christian guy that gave his testimony a month before at my Youth for Christ. So there's little side things. So that was a weird day, meeting with the girls at Edison. Well, we're not going to have practice today. Have you heard? Yeah, they had all heard, because she was killed 1 block from Edison. So anyway, that's Marjorie Mason. Just a little side issue. Naomi's house is for women, and they can sign up during the day at Poverello, and they can stay that night. Then the next day they have to sign up again and stay that night. And they can house 30, 35, whatever, and they have to sign up. So that is a place women can stay at Poverello. Suicide Prevention Lifeline, Neighborhood Thrift, Police Report Verification. When people call us and say, I was robbed and now I need help, we have to get a police report that they were actually robbed, and we can get a verification, so they have to report it, and then we can check it out. Poverello House, Pregnancy Care Center, Prison Fellowship, Red Cross, 2 fire verifications. I guess that really shook us up. It's on there twice. Rescue the Children, Salvation Army has a food bank, Clovis Salvation Army, Fresno Salvation Army. Some of these would be good for you to call and find out what exactly do you do. Section 8, there are some people, like disabled people, make, let's say, $800 a month. Well, they can't stay anywhere and pay for their food and everything else for $800 a month, unless they're Section 8. Then they can get a place that would cost $600 or $700, and they can pay $200 for a Section 8 apartment. It lowers the cost of the apartment. So that's a way people can survive if they're very low income, Section 8. But it takes a long time to get on their list. Veterans Hospital has a homeless program, homeless veterans. Willie's used apply. We put that because we have used Willie's for years. I think he's a Christian, and he sells appliances really cheap, and they're good. He fixes them up. So if you ever have someone that their refrigerator broke or whatever, that would be a good resource. Workforce Connection for people that want to find jobs. Utilities, these are places that we refer people that need utilities. Either the Salvation Army or EOC will pay for utility relief, like PG&E. And then this is how I should have done it the first time. Okay, let's use the fastest. Oh, they're killing you.
They are.
Look at you guys, you're like snails. So that's just our newsletter. You're not invited on the bottom because we had it last week, our banquet. But that's just an idea of what we do. Let me just open it up for questions now about any other resources you might want to know about. Do you have any situations you're working with now that you don't know where to refer people?
That was in the back of one of the files.
Oh, these are the people that came to our banquet. How'd that get in there? Okay.
Someone who has financial issues, how long can they be helped? And for what amounts?
It depends. Let's say you called in and you needed help with your rent or whatever. Then we would say, or you needed a wheelchair ramp, okay? But you couldn't afford to have someone build it for you or some other financial need. Then we would find out what your need is. We would find out if you go to church, because if you go to church, we always call your church first. And if the people refuse to tell their own church about their need, we won't help them, because churches are supposed to help their own people. So we would, even if they say, I'm not going to call my church, I'll say, I'll call your church then. And I'll talk to, because I probably know the pastor. I know most of the pastors in town. And so between how much can you pay? So let's say the wheelchair ramp, okay? First of all, PG&E, we would say we don't help PG&E. Call EOC or Salvation Army. Those resources are here. That they can help. But we will help with rent once in a while. But we'll say, you need to call your friends, you need to call your family, you need to talk to your church, you need to figure out what you can come up with. You have to pay something, even if it's very little. And then we will see what we come up with. Now, if I need to, I wear out Matt Markarian, because I call him on a regular basis for money. And so it's a combination. So let's say the wheelchair ramp. We have a guy, a foreman, that will go out and look at your mobile home or whatever and see about what it's going to cost to build a wheelchair ramp. He's a former construction guy. So he says it's going to cost $300 for materials. Before we have anyone fix it, we will say, how much can you pay? How much can your church pay? Etc. And if I need to, I'll call some churches and I'll ask them for $200 or $300 each. And I could raise a lot of money. I could call 10 churches if I wanted. For instance, every church that starts with North has a lot of money. Northwest, North Point, North Side, even though it's Cross City now, we know it's North Side, and North Park, and so forth. So we have good relationships with those churches, and we help those churches not to get ripped off, too. So they're willing to help. So we can piece money together to pay for something. We don't keep paying bills. We don't help ongoing. But if a person had a legitimate need 6 months later, we would consider it just like any other need, and we'd look at it again. We don't make loans. We give money and meet a need. So a lot of times we just have to kind of piece it together and see how we could help. But there was a guy, let me mention one other thing about that. We had a guy one time, a neat story. When we first started, we were down on Fulton, across from Cornerstone, at a ministry called Worldwide Ministries. Our office was in there. We got a call from a lady. She says, I have 8 kids, and I can't pay my PG&E bill, and we need $385. Now, in that day, that was like $1,000 or $1,200. That was a lot of money. And we didn't have it. I said, to be honest, we don't have it, but I'll pray for you. And even when I said it, it was kind of like, she's not going to be too excited about this. But, so we prayed. We said, Lord, you know where she can get that. We pray that you would provide that. And then I hung up. She left. Right then, I got a call from, I forget what church it was. It might have been People's, saying, hey, you haven't called us for a while. You need any help? I said, yeah, we need $385. You got it. Hang on. You're not going to believe this. And paid her bill. So that was a neat one. That doesn't happen very often. But